Wow. Just looking at that could give you a real chill, couldn't it? It's video into us from St. John this morning. People say some residential streets there were more like rivers last night after a day of rain, freezing rain, and snow. Now the threat is from plunging temperatures. There are flash freeze warnings in parts of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI. That's leading to school closings this morning all across New Brunswick, for example. Drivers are being told to be careful on the roads. There are scattered power outages in those provinces, too. Much of Newfoundland is also under weather warnings. And in Ontario and Quebec, the story is bitter cold. Wind chill is the big worry there, with frostbite a threat in minutes for exposed skin. In some northern parts of Quebec and Ontario, there are warnings for wind chill values as low as -50. So why don't we start things off with Chris over at the Weather Network, the latest on the storm, where it's hitting, and what to expect this morning.
Extreme cold. This is what we're talking about, Heather, right from the Ontario-Manitoba border all the way to Western Labrador and clean on down to the American border. So some big cities in the south as well. So -40s in the north, -30s to -40 in the south as well. These are the wind chills, so we really got to be bundling up to be sure. Just give you some examples through the morning hours. Yeah, feeling into the -30s across southern Ontario into Quebec as well. Meanwhile, we've got across the Maritimes a flash freeze warning in place as temperatures go from above zero and rain to below zero and some snow, and that's icing up the roadways as well. So big noticeable temperature drop there too. In terms of when things are going to improve, it won't be as cold tomorrow, although tomorrow morning will still be frigid. But by Wednesday, southern Ontario temperatures rising above the freezing mark. We're likely going to see snow Tuesday night change over to rain. And even in Quebec too, you'll be getting a bit of a midweek boost.
Chris, thank you very much, and we'll have the full forecast for where you live coming up with Chris in just a second. But let's focus in on what is happening just in Toronto and in immediate surrounding area. Our Michael Serapio wondering what on earth he did wrong to deserve this for a Monday morning assignment. But there you are outside for us today, and well, give us the read. Good morning.
Good morning. And you know, Heather, it is so cold out here. The word cold seems like an understatement, and frigid barely accurate as to what it feels like outside. And in terms of numbers, I know Chris was giving us the forecast there, but let me, as you say, dig in right now in the Greater Toronto Area, because according to Environment Canada, the GTA will be feeling wind chill values of -30 to -38. Certainly that is what it feels like right now. And that means a phrase is being used in the Toronto area, which is potentially dangerous. And it's just not the GTA, it's other parts of Ontario and beyond as well. In fact, take a look at this map from Environment Canada. And in this map, you're going to see denoted in red areas that are right now under alerts and warnings. And when it comes to Ontario, really the warnings come in the form of extreme weather warnings. And we're talking about Toronto, Hamilton, Niagara, Ottawa, as well as Gatineau. In fact, when we talk about the Ottawa-Gatineau capital region, people there this morning will be feeling wind chill values as low as -40. So that means people do need to be aware of that and to act accordingly. So dress in layers, dress warmly. Exposed skin can be exposed to frostbite within minutes. If the elderly, the very young, those with chronic illnesses, well, they should think twice, says Environment Canada, about going outside, staying much long outside under these very frigid conditions, this extreme cold. In fact, stay indoors if you can. And to that, also a reminder here, if it is too cold for people, it is also too cold for pets. So your cats and dogs should stay indoors. And if your dog has to go outside to go to the bathroom, limit the outdoor time in weather like this. Again, from Ontario to parts of Quebec north of Montreal. Also, some news you can use here right now. We should also say, Heather, that a number of school boards in Ontario have canceled their school bus service. Schools are open, but school bus services has been canceled because they don't want kids waiting in this extreme cold in order to get to school. So parents need to be aware of that. Check with your local school boards before you let your children out the door. And if you take transit. Before you go out the door, check your local transit as well. This extreme cold having an effect on not only surface routes, but tracks that trains rely on to get around, Heather.
We've already heard some reports of trains, yes, slow coming into downtown Toronto this morning. Michael, you mentioned that list of those who are vulnerable at these times, the elderly, the very young. Of course, we have to add to that the homeless, and housing advocates are concerned and offering some guidance and warnings this morning.
They are, and they are very concerned because we know, for example, in Ontario alone, the shelter system was at capacity over the weekend. That was because of the storm. It was at capacity again last night because of the extreme cold. And in Toronto, they opened an extra warming centers throughout the city to accommodate those who have no homes, no shelter to go to. And that, according to advocates, really exposes a crisis in this country. In fact, take a listen to Kathy Crow, who is not only a street nurse, but she's also a housing advocate. Take a listen to what she says about what this extreme cold is saying about the situation with the homeless in this country.
Call Toronto the epicenter of a homeless disaster that's happening across the country. We're calling this a state of emergency around homelessness, and we're going to the mayor this week to say so.
And Heather, just a note on Toronto, as I said, those extra warming spaces were open last night, and as of last night, more than 1,000 people who had no homes, no shelter to go to, made use of those extra spaces. So something people are going to be talking about today, as there is at least another 24 hours of these extreme cold conditions.
Hey, Michael, thank you very much.
You're
You're
welcome.
able to come in to warm up. Of course, we think of those who do not have that option. So please do so, Michael. We'll talk to you later on in the morning. And for you at home, the very latest on the weather and how it's affecting where you live. We have the CBC Storm Center up, so you follow the links to your region at CBCNews.ca. And more on this to come, of course, through the morning.